Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack on Productions. Today I'm Bancroft and being joined once again by Jimmy, Nick, and like always, Fluff.
Howdy.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, people?
And today we have an amazing bout for you all. I figured I would do it, Jimmy, just for you.
Oh, thank you.
But like
Appreciate
always, there's buttons on the screen somewhere. Feel free to click them. They're there for a reason. And with that being said, we have an amazing matchup for you all today. And by amazing matchup, we do have a OG green deck. It seems pretty alright. Maybe not, but we'll see what happens. Versus the new Android 13 deck. Now, we've seen the Broly in action before, so we haven't seen 13. Fluff, do you want to kind of give a little insight about that deck?
Going for a record here. I lost.
You? I don't.
This deck is not fantastic. I don't know. I'm being half satirical here. The deck has a lot of good things going for it, but it's missing something. Like, there's a distinct lack of staying power for your board pieces. There's no barrier. It's like half arrival, half successor. So the deck gets a little confused with what it wants to do. And if you're playing against any deck that has any ready removal, it is super difficult to try to get your pieces going. But the main idea is to KO cards on your battle card side of the field, and then using the leader skill, make them discard and try to grind the game out. It's just really hard to maintain that out. I actually misread one of the cards when I was building the deck. So a card that I should have included at a larger quantity, I included at a very low number. So that's on me. It did go off. It does go off. It does play some really good stuff. And I kind of wish the second game had been on camera, because then it kind of showed a little bit of what the deck can actually do. But at this point, it's just going to be a whore in a bar kind of vomiting all over herself, not doing a lot of great stuff.
Real quick, to go over real quick. Your deck isn't standard yellow-green, though.
No, I do run tricolor. I did do the yellow-blue and then a lot of yellow-green. And truthfully, the yellow-blue stuff throughout the night was far superior to the yellow-green stuff.
Well, except in this matchup, right?
Oh, right. It breaks super hard here. It's not even funny. I think the one-drop Android is one of two battle cards that I played the entire match.
Yeah. Like Bancroft said, this has been profiled and played on camera before. Set one Broly, Battle Evo booster brought two new cards into the deck, which I'm pretty sure in this matchup I played both of them, which are amazing. The deck itself, it's green, so it's not that great, but with the Battle Evolution stuff, it does help it a lot.
Right. It's really awesome to see you playing a rogue strategy and showing out with it. You showed that green can actually do a little bit.
Yeah, this is more of a homebrew. I work on this in my basement in my free time. I'm like, how can I just make this work? And I figured just practicing the deck more, playing the stuff no one else really plays, keep people on their toes and stuff.
I'm having a brain aneurysm listening to this right now.
Let's be honest. That Bardock is not Demigra. It is nowhere near as oppressive as Demigra. That card can actually lose counters. So it's a real risk. I'm joking. That is obviously satire. The Bardock is truthfully a really good unison. You use it wonderfully in this deck.
Yeah, and if you play green, there's no reason. There's almost no. If you play a green and you want to do a hand control strategy, there's no reason not to run Unison. Its +1 is if you KO one of your one drops, they discard a card. It has a -3 where it gives itself +5,000 power and triple tag for the turn, so it makes it a really good late game finisher. And then the auto on it is probably one of the highlights of the card itself. When your opponent combos, you can combo kill any card they play. And like Fluff said, his deck is half Arrival, half Successor. If he can't Arrival anything with the right combo pieces, then what is his deck going to do?
Yeah, so
The
like
auto is absurd. Like that is beyond absurd. And this deck should not have access to something like that.
It really complements what the deck wants to do because you're denying them resources from their hand, but then you're also basically making them waste a combo per turn. You know, it really does a fantastic job of resource denial. And against arrival based decks, like if you can't arrival and get your presence out, you get no ground footing. And there were a few times that I went to go for the arrival strategy and would combo like or attempt to combo the one green yellow card in my hand to arrival out the 4-drop, or I'd combo a blue yellow to try to rival out Bojack. And it just didn't come up for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's honestly, if you think about it, it's another form of hand control in and of itself. Because I'm ripping cards out with my leader, I'm ripping cards out with the unison, I'm ripping cards out with my other pieces. But if they're going to try to combo to defend themselves, or if they're going to try to combo to push, I can kill that, which rips more stuff out of their hand. They're doing it for me, essentially. So I like that.
Well, and we were talking about last night about the Brawly deck after this. You get to essentially, depending on what energy you spend it on, like, so if you played, let's say, the 1-drop Vegeta super combo with a Brawly unfilled, and you're awakened with a demonic restraint, and you have a Bardock unison, you basically get to +6 every turn for 1 energy.
Yeah,
because you get the combo kill, you get the +3, you get the essentially the -1 on the Vegeta, then you get another one when you +1 on the Bardock.
And here what just happened is I'll explain. I just played the 2 new cards from Battle Evo. So the first one was the 1-drop Broly. If you swing with it, you can take a life and it gets +11,000, making it 15. And then you can also has an auto. When the card is removed and placed in your battle area, for 1 energy, you can play a 4-cost Broly, which will play the one that I just played. And that will has an auto. When that's on play for 1 energy, you can KO anything on the board and then play any Broly with an evolve skill on top of it, which is a perfect segue for the 7-drop Broly, the Supreme Berserker. Which has barrier, which makes it almost impossible for anyone to hit it with a lot of things because it's 7 cost 2. And then also with that's auto, since it's a pretty old card, not many people use these days. It has a burst 5. Whenever you swing with it, if your opponent has 4 or more cards in hand, you get to peek their hand and pick anything out of it and place it in the drop area. So any critical piece they need, like his Bojack, so he can't do his special arrivals with that and keep his energy up. That's the card I picked. And then it also, for if your opponent has 3 or less cards in hand, you can restand it. So you can either pull any big piece out of their hand for nothing, or you get a dual attack 30k crit, which is nutty.
You just kind of nailed like my basic concept when I was building this deck was to basically use the Bojacks to keep my energy up for arrivals or anything that I needed to do with the Bojack, because green yellow, spending 2 energy or even 4 energy, like spending 2 energy is a lot. It's a lot of investment for any color in green or yellow. And then when you consider like there's some cards that you might have to spend 4 energy on, or spend 4 energy to complete a play, that is an incredibly heavy investment into what's going on here. Because of my hand size decreasing, I did not have a good target, and I really needed to get a green in my energy. And really, I should have charged a green turn 1 instead of that yellow. And that was just my inexperience playing this deck. So I got really tilted in this match because I'm not even considering, like, I keep almost forgetting about the Bardock's combo kill, and I'm trying to combo just to get something to stick to go through. And then you're like, yeah, combo kill. And it basically just it gets to a point where I run out of applicable things in hand. Like, I'm looking at my hand now with the set of energy that I have on the field, and I just don't have anything because you got rid of the only arrival target that I had for blue-yellow, and I think I have 2 Zamos super combos in hand. And I have another arrival that takes a green energy, and I could have probably played that out had I been able to, but I knew I was just in trouble at this point.
So yeah, and like you said, with combo killing, and like I said before, you're doing my job for me. Yeah. So especially with any arrival strategy, because most arrivals you're going to want to hit your super combos that do the dual energy for free. You're not going to want to spend your whole hand for it. So it's just a perfect target for Bardock.
So Fluff, me and you have kind of like differing ideas on the Android 13. Do you charge this turn?
Yep.
So I think that card is absolutely insane, and I've been building around that card lately. I know in our matchup that night, that card put in the most work out of any card you played the entire game. But how did that card feel overnight? I know you said you don't really enjoy this type of deck, but
honestly, that was probably my favorite card within the deck. That was part of the that card, and then the 2-drop Android 14-15 that's green-yellow that we got in EBO1. I think the 7-drop Android 13s are smoke and mirror cards. Mm-hmm. They look good, and they have seemingly great effects, but they're honestly terrible. They're honestly terrible resource investments. So the 4-drop, you can actually play relatively easy. It's 1 energy on arrival, or you can play it off the top 10 with the 2-drop. Mm-hmm. So he's not super terrible to get on the field. My biggest problem is he has no type of removal, or he has no type of protection from removal. He's not deflect. He's not barrier. So you really value off of him if he makes it to your opponent's turn. But if you're your best bet would be to, in the last combo step of your final attack for a turn, get the arrival out, let him arrival, stick, swing with him if you need to, start of the turn, pop 2 of your opponent's battle cards. He was super valuable in that. But just the lack of protection basically meant that he did not stick around long, and he was really good against your yellow deck because you were playing Mecha Frieza this weekend.
Yeah.
And he was really good against that. But, this round, there weren't a ton of targets to hit that weren't barrier. And then in my last round, I was playing James, which you all will see what James was playing. But it was just not enough against James.
I had a quick question. So one of the things about Broly is that its ability to just completely wipe your hand. Going back through it and thinking differently your first turn, do you think you could have won at all? Or it was just a straight up a bad matchup for you?
This is probably, I would have to put Broly on one, and hand control in general, on the bad side of matchups. Android 13 draws a ton on the front, and you can really cycle through and see pieces that you want. But once they establish that Bardock unison, there's just nothing that you can do unless you have to double dip your resources just to get an arrival out. Then, specifically against Broly, a lot of your stuff doesn't have barrier. So unless you're able to spit 2 or 3 cards out on the field at any given time, you're going to lose it as soon as their leader attacks. It is just really difficult for this deck to get its foot. And honestly, if I were to change it, knowing what I know now, I would change the overall feel of this deck to focus less on playing out the 7-drop Android 13s and go into a more control strategy. And then see how that fared. That focuses a little bit less on having to do a rival or gimmicky things, and I might even take out the multicolor aspect, or at least the tricolor variant, and just go green-yellow and focus in really hard on the successor mechanic, utilizing stuff like Topo, utilizing a other yellow-green stuff that would have more of an impact on the field reactively.
So my turn again. And at this point, when Fluff started his turn previously, neither of us had a hand, which I commented, and Fluff was not amused when I mentioned that. But
I mean, it's fair. Like, you have no hand, you've got a unison, a field card, basically a dual attack crit, another crit, a leader, It's fair.
You have a leader too.
Yeah, I do.
So
I basically tried to just avoid taking a crit there, so I utilized the android's leader effect. It's kind of fruitless. It's pointless at this point. He's going to deal crit. When he does deal damage with the leader or unison and give me a card in hand, he's just going to activate an effect that's going to drop a card from my hand. So it doesn't really matter too much.
And that's the strength of set one Broly and hand control in general, is that once you get to your opponent to a state where they have no hand, it is so difficult for them to recover. And if you play well, your opponent cannot recover.
Yeah, and if you have the right things, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But if you have the right things, if your opponent has zero hand, you can keep them there no matter what. No. Good. You go ahead.
Yeah, but that is the strength of green, and I think people that are the doomsayers that say green is the worst color in the game, that green has nothing, there's no reason to play green, I don't think they are delving into hand control enough. I think they're looking at green archetypes at face value and not looking at, I'm going to say the word that we all love here, degenerate, the degenerate hand control options that green has access to, where in a hand control deck, it can take away your opponent's ability to even play the game because of how important the hand is in this game. Where the hand is your protection, it's your ability to deal damage, it is your ability to do anything. But when you take that away, the opponent literally cannot play the game. Like, I think if you are one of the people that say green is not that great, I urge you to look at green again and play around with these hand control options and see what the color can actually do.
And that's what I was asking Fluff about, like, what could he have done? A lot of people's solutions would be to just hammer down on super aggro, but here's the thing, not every deck does super aggro. And yes, we don't do best 2 or 3s at our shop because of time restrictions, unfortunately, but should I waste 4 cards on my sideboard just to be double strike cards, or potentially 6 with both the Kai and Champa, and just to hope I can see those within 2 to 3 turns, do enough double strike damage to a hand control deck before they hit me? But in the matchup with Broly, those life cards could benefit him more than they hurt him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the deck or the meta right now is filled with a lot of decks that go very tall or very wide very early. And I think in a lot of ways they mitigate that impact of hand control and field control because they're able to use their drop area or their warp as a second hand in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And so, and specifically, I'm referring to like Dark Brawly, King Piccolo. I think Yellow can, Mecha Frieza, especially utilizing Unite Symbol, can play around the idea of hand control. They don't get to keep the hand they usually have, but they draw enough that they get to keep enough cards to play through that crit and at least control the game till they pace green out. That, because like Nick said, at one point we were both on no cards in hand. But if you're playing a deck that draws a lot or moves through its resources incredibly quickly at a rate that is not a +0 or a 1-for-1 trade, like Mecha Frieza, where you get to unite a symbol for free, or you get to Kefla's Fury, or whatever you're doing, then you actually can outpace and outhand the Brawly player or the hand control player. And that's really why I don't think people are giving it enough credit because there are probably decks that hand control loses to and really struggles with as an uphill battle. But there are a lot of decks that don't play low enough, fast enough to get through that. And they take the game into a point where against any other deck, they can then utilize their resource advantage to win by playing better things at high energy cost. But against hand control, once it gets to that point, their hand is empty. So that's kind of my take on it.
With that being said, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you all did enjoy. And we are aware that this time Fluff has made the world record for our channel. No one will ever top that, most likely, unless Jimmy just wants to be an ass.
I was going to start the video with it. Like, hey, I lost this one. Just interrupted Bancroft. I'll let him finish here in a minute, but I lost this one.
But, it's hopefully you enjoyed the insight we had on both these decks, or the idea of what 13 could be. And with that being said, we're going to go around for our last words. Nick, you got any? Wow, my good. Do you have any?
Do I have any words? No, if I say anything, everyone will get mad at me, so.
No. I'll get mad at you.
Well, then, Jimmy?
Respect women.
All right, Jimmy, I'm going to let you finish. But green is the best color of all time.
I guess Nick doesn't respect women. I see how it is. Yeah, green players don't respect women.
That's rough.
Fluff, can you lead us out?
Yeah, sorry to all you Android 13 fans. I did not show up today for that. Unfortunately, did not have a positive experience playing this deck, and not because of green. Like, don't want to take anything away from Nick's victory here. He played extremely well. I did not enjoy this deck. It's not for me. I do have an idea for a build. I will revisit that once I have a chance to actually play something that's fun. So, as always, we make mistakes, so you don't have to. Read your cards, know your place, and like always, fluff out.